9 shocking biblical events that actually happened confirmed by science at midnight. The clock struck midnight, and the world held its breath. Beneath the surface of our ordinary lives lurked extraordinary truths. What if I told you that events from ancient texts were rooted in history, backed by fresh scientific evidence? Can you feel the shivers crawling up your spine? They say history holds secrets only discovered by the brave. Gather round, because it's time to dive deep into the ocean of the inexplicable. First on this wild ride is the mysterious case of the plagues of Egypt. Think of it. A whole nation forced to witness frogs raining from the sky, rivers turning to blood, locust swarms that consumed everything in their path. But here's where it gets wild. Scientists recently uncovered traces of toxic algae that could have turned the Nile red. Paleontologists even found fossils of ancient frogs that vanished without a trace, suggesting they faced a calamity. Can you imagine the chaos? Frantic screams, children crying, the smell of desperation in the air. How could any nation survive such a horror? Then there's the well-known story of the walls of Jericho crumbling before the Israelites. But wait, archaeologists unearthed evidence of a massive city with walls that could withstand anything, only to see them collapse. They speculate an earthquake struck, synchronizing perfectly with the siege. Could faith and tectonic plates conspire to bring about such a fall? Picture the dust settling, the echoes of crumbling stone, as hope and fear intertwined. What truly fell that day? As we spiral further into this rabbit hole, hold tight. The next event will leave your heart racing. The tale of Lazarus, who came back from the dead, might not be as far-fetched as you think. In modern days, scientists have revived cells thought to be long deceased. Imagine the possibilities. What was once believed to be a fairy tale could now be explored through the lens of science. But were there strings being pulled from unseen realms? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect, but let us not linger too long. What about the momentary darkness that swallowed the land when Jesus died? A chilling day that shook the very heavens. Credit to ancient historians suggests a solar eclipse took place right over Jerusalem, casting eerie shadows. Was it mere coincidence? Or did the world tremble in response to an event every heart felt deep within? And there's more. The very fabric of reality seems woven with these enigmas, each story more enticing than the last. Do you feel the weight of anticipation growing heavier? With science merging with ancient myths, we're left with more questions than answers. What will be uncovered next in this captivating journey? More shocking revelations await, but will you dare to unravel the threads of mystery stitched through time? Stay with us, because the next chapter might just turn your world upside down. Suddenly, a chill swept through the air, thickening the atmosphere with an unsettling tension. As if the fabric of reality had been altered, whispers echoed around darkened corners. A sense of anticipation enveloped the viewer, urging them to lean in closer. This was just the beginning of a tale that would rattle the very core of your beliefs. Next on our heart-stopping journey is the story of the fiery furnace, where 3 men defied an order and walked through flames untouched. Can you feel the heat licking at your skin? What if I told you scientists are exploring the limits of human endurance in extreme conditions? Some claim that under certain conditions, spontaneous human combustion could explain such miraculous escapes. Imagine the flames dancing, the roars of the crowd watching in disbelief. Were the men truly protected by faith, or was there a hidden science we have yet to uncover? Now, let us take a detour to the moment that left a whole nation at the edge of despair: the Great Flood. Myth or reality? Geologists found layers of sediment that coincide with accounts from ancient texts. This wasn't just a bedtime story. It suggests there may have been catastrophic flooding that reshaped entire landscapes. Picture a country submerged, civilizations drowning in chaos, and terror seeping into the hearts of survivors as they clung to refuge on floating debris. In this tumult of destruction, did humanity face a reckoning, an opportunity for rebirth? And what of the miraculous parting of the Red Sea? Some skeptics point to a weather phenomenon called a wind set-down, where strong winds could indeed create a pathway through the waters. But what if there is more to it? As speculation boils, imagine the scene: waves crashing on either side, the Israelites marching through, hearts racing, minds ablaze with uncertainty. Were they led by divine forces, or did they simply take advantage of nature's unpredictable fury? But wait, what about the mysterious voice that called to Moses from the burning bush? This wasn't just any bush. It was ablaze yet untouched by destruction. Could there have been a chemical reaction at play, creating a phenomenon that modern science struggles to replicate? Imagine standing there, feeling the heat radiate, while history spills out its secrets. Could the flame represent something deeper, something ineffable that science can't fully grasp? As the revelations twist like smoke in the air, do you sense the pounding of your heart? The connections grow thicker between the divine and the scientific, like veins coursing with life. But what ties these events together? What unseen hands guide these narratives? And just when you think you've seen it all, our next chapter takes us to the edge of the unexplainable, a moment when shadows merge with light, and the lines between truth and myth blur. You won't want to miss what awaits. Can you feel the tension rising? The adventure is just beginning, and the real question is what revelations lay hidden just beyond the turn of the page. In the quiet of night, a thick blanket of fog rolled in, obscuring the shadows and muffling the sounds of the world. It was as though the universe itself held its breath, waiting for the moment to reveal truths long buried. Behind closed doors, secrets twisted and turned, ready to burst forth. Imagine a desolate battlefield, clashing swords, the cries of valor mingling with desperation. Now picture Moses, a fierce leader with eyes aflame, guiding countless souls across a landscape that felt both foreign and forbidding. But something loomed over them, a creeping dread that clawed at their hearts. The darkness was palpable, whispering fears and doubts, just like a silent predator stalking its prey. This was no ordinary journey. It was an odyssey of faith in the face of overwhelming obstacles. With every step, their resolve wavered. The sound of approaching chaos crackled in the air like electricity, and as they marched onward, they felt the hot breath of uncertainty brush against their neck. Were they choosing hope or court disaster? Out of the haze emerged the silhouette of a figure, one cloaked in a white robe, impossibly calm amidst the storm. It felt as though time itself stood still. The crowd hushed, murmurs of suspicion rippling through the ranks. This wasn't just any visitor. He held an undeniable authority over the elements, and the atmosphere shifted around him, laden with power. What message did he bear? The moment stretched, tension rising like the pressure in a shaken bottle. Then, with a poise that defied the chaos, he raised his hand. Words, like thunder, emanated from his lips, shaking the very ground beneath them. Fear not. Move forward. The path is clear. The promise hung like a spell. And just as doubt threatened to swallow them whole, the waters began to part. Was this natural phenomena or divine intervention? A collective gasp rippled through the crowd as the waters receded, revealing a dry passage stretching out towards the unknown. Hearts raced. They edged towards the towering walls of water, glistening like jewels, feelings of hope wrestling with trepidation. As they stepped onto the sandy expanse, the lives they left behind flickered in their minds, everything they held dear swirling with the dust of despair. Would they emerge as victors or victims? Each step echoed louder in their hearts, the uncertainty slicing through the tight chest of every hopeful soul. Just when the exhilaration of escape felt within reach, the thunderous rhythm of hooves sounded in the distance. Panic pulsed through the ranks. The Egyptian army was hot on their trail, fury driving them forward. How could they hope to overcome such odds? Would they replay the same mistakes of the past? The soldiers emerged from the fog, faces clenched with rage and desperation. The wall of water trembled, as if echoing the conflict within the hearts of every onlooker. A choice loomed ahead. Would they turn back or forge ahead into the uncertainty? As the soldiers closed in, a shift occurred. A violent rush of waves crashed together, as if the very fury of nature was wrestling with fate. What would happen next? Would they finish this journey, or would despair drown their hopes forever? The tension hung heavy in the air, a tantalizing whisper on the brink of collapse. The line between survival and ruin blurred, igniting questions that would echo through the ages. What lay ahead? One thing was certain. The revelation of truth was unyielding, like the relentless force of water rushing close behind. And just when it seemed all was lost, a new voice pierced through the chaos. Could it be a message from beyond, a last word of hope, or perhaps a warning that the worst was yet to come? You want to miss what happens next, where faith meets fortitude, and the lines between legend and reality begin to dissolve. What secrets lie just within reach? The air crackled with tension as the opposing forces approached, the Egyptian army like a storm gathering in the distance. The once dry passage, which felt like a lifeline of hope, now seemed to shimmer with uncertainty. Hearts pounded, each beat echoing the overwhelming urgency of the moment. Moses stood at the front, breath hitching as he wrestled with the responsibility of leading these people. "Move. We have no time," he shouted, urgency lacing every syllable. The crowd jolted forward, but fear was a heavy cloak, dragging at their heels. Could they really trust in the miracle of the parted waters? Or was it a cruel joke designed to ensnare them? Murmurs of doubt began to rise. What if it closes behind us? What if we drown? Each voice chipped away at their resolve like a relentless tide eating away at a shore. Moses could see it, the flicker of hesitation in their eyes that a soldier from the Egyptian ranks let out a fierce battle cry, the sound slicing through the fog like a knife. He raised his sword high, urging his comrades to follow, and the earth seemed to tremble beneath the weight of their fury. Fear radiated from the ranks of Moses' people, lives hung in the balance, teetering on the edge of choice. "Keep going," he bellowed, pushing against the wave of despair crashing over them. They had to believe in the path before them, but the gnawing fear clawed at his own heart too. What if the walls of water collapsed? What if their faith was misplaced? Ahead loomed a figure, illuminated by the pale moonlight. It was the man in the white robe, standing poised on the shoreline, as if waiting specifically for the moment of reckoning. Was he a guide, or a harbinger of doom? Moses saw him raise an arm again, this time not in command, but in a gesture of warning. "No, no," Moses shouted, his voice mingling with the chaos. "Everyone listen. We face the storms of doubt, but we must hold to our faith. There is power in our unity." He stepped back, surveying the frantic crowd, desperate to ignite that flicker of courage. But the Egyptians surged forward, swords glinting through the mist. Each pounding hoof step resonated with the pulsating dread in Moses' chest. "Run!" came the cries, some already turning back. The fear was contagious, spreading like wildfire. But just then, cracks of lightning flashed in the clouds above, a surge of divine energy illuminating the darkness. It struck like a revelation, a sudden understanding that they could not go back. Moses felt that energy coiling within himself, a flicker of hope rekindled. "We are meant for more than this," he cried, catching eyes filled with indecision. "Find courage now. We walk forward, together." As if in response, the waters surged higher, a warning against retreat while the ground shuddered beneath their feet. The path was fraught with uncertainty, but it was also a chance to face their deepest fears or be swallowed by their past. The Egyptian army was closing in, faces a mix of rage and desperation, driving them relentlessly forward. Yet, Moses felt a surge of power from somewhere he couldn't explain. With every word, he felt the air shift. "Forward!" he yelled, heart thundering. Together, against all instinct, they began running. Their fear became their fuel. But then, just as the last of the group hit the dry land, the unthinkable occurred. The waters began to tremble, a deafening roar rising above the chaos. The walls were shifting, no longer a promise of escape, but a harbinger of peril. "What is happening?" someone screamed, panic now replacing hope. The ground buckled beneath them, and the waters began to close. Darkness rushed in like a predator that had been waiting for its time to strike. Were they playing into the hands of fate, or could they outrun the wrath that was about to crash down upon them? The once clear passage was now a churning tempest, and Moses gripped the hand of a child beside him, whispering a prayer for the deliverance they all so desperately needed. He could see the tumult rising, The Egyptian soldiers and his people were now trapped together in a collision course with destiny. The last glimmer of hope shimmered as bright as it ever had, a frail flame in the gathering storm. What would the final outcome reveal? Was this to be a testament of faith or a tragic end to their journey? All that lay ahead was obscured by the torrents closing and answers hidden in the chaos. One thing was certain, the truth was waiting, just out of reach. Would they survive the tumult? Would their faith withstand the onslaught? A shattering roar echoed, drowning out all thought. The reckoning was upon them. What lay beneath the surface, hidden in the depths, waiting to be unleashed. The very ground trembled like an animal in pain as the waters surged upward, a churning wall of chaos threatening to consume everything in its path. Moses felt the heat of desperation radiate from the onlookers, their eyes wide and searching for answers that simply weren't there. All around him, fear crackled fiercely. It was the kind of fear that could ignite into panic at any moment. "Keep moving," he called out again, though the words felt hollow, drifting into the tempest of doubt. They were at the edge of annihilation, a thin line separating hope from despair. The child's grip tightened on his hand, small fingers trembling. Moses looked down into the innocent face, eyes brimming with uncertainty. It was like staring into a mirror of his own turmoil. Behind him, shouts erupted as soldiers charged forward, their battle cries mingled with the sound of the crashing waves. Panic turned to chaos, and chaos to terror. Lightning continued to crackle overhead, illuminating the scene in sharp bursts of clarity. Each flash revealed faces contorted in fear, some crying, others frozen in disbelief. Moses felt his heart race, battling against the swelling tide of desperation. "This is our moment. Together," he shouted, wanting so much for them to find his confidence contagious. Yet when the waters began to crash down, a horrific promise molded into reality. Doubt wove itself tightly into the fabric of their being. "What if we're doomed?" Someone wailed, a question that sliced through the noise. That question echoed in the depths of Moses' mind. A faint glow amidst the chaos caught his eye, the figure in the white robe. Somehow, he remained unchanged by the frantic energy swirling around, his expression calm as he stood on the shore's edge. Somehow he seemed to see it all. "Who are you?" Moses shouted, the wind snatching at his words. The man raised his hand, and in a moment of striking clarity, Moses understood. This man held something powerful, something beyond the madness surrounding them. But what? The ground shuddered again beneath them, tremors pulsing like a heartbeat, and that arched wall of water loomed ominously, growing taller, crested with foamy tips ready to crash down. "Move!" Moses yelled, propelling himself and the child forward, dragging everyone forward, urging them into the jaws of uncertainty. The air became a swirl of heat and mist, fear intertwining with hope, a thrum of life that couldn't just be wasted. He could see the edge of the waters ripple dangerously close, but a frail thread within him still grasped for a miracle. The first Egyptian soldiers were nearly upon them, spear tips glinting savagely in the flashing lights. Then came a terrifying roar. The parting waters surged backwards, drawn by an unseen force, just as Moses and his people reached the defining edge. For a heartbeat, Moses hesitated, caught between the warriors of a past torment and the promise of the unknown ahead. "We don't have much time," he screamed to his people, pushing them forward into motion. In that one crucial instant, he felt the tension snap. The child squeezed his hand tighter as though sensing the fracture of fate. It was now or never. Breaths hitched, feet pounded, and the waters began their furious descent. "Go!" he bellowed, every fiber of his being willing them to dash towards wildfire hope as the ground relinquished its hold. The waters were crushing downward, and in their descent, they seemed to reach a breaking point just as Moses led the last of his throng onto the narrow passage. The child yanked his hand free, stumbling slightly as the child tried to look back, and a moment suspended in time held everything just before the fall. "Together," he murmured, and then, with a primal scream of thunder, darkness crashed down, enveloping the world in a storm blotted out by desperation and fury. What lay ahead? Were they stepping into salvation or a new nightmare? As the wave descended, Moses could only wonder if they would emerge reborn or lost forever beneath the relentless tide. The path was obscured. Suddenly, Through the roar of the storm, a mysterious whisper rang in the air, hinting at an ancient truth waiting to reveal itself. What secrets would be unearthed in the depths of the chaos? The thunderous roar of the crashing waves swallowed everything, an unforgiving darkness that wrapped itself around Moses and his people. He stumbled forward, not even knowing if they were truly moving or caught in some otherworldly grip. The child, who had once been an anchor for him, now felt lost in the vastness of uncertainty. "Hold on," he shouted, desperately gripping the child's hand. Moans filled the void as the crowd surged, a mass of humanity flickering between hope and despair. Each heartbeat felt like an eternity, every moment suspended in the terrifying unknown. They broke through the black void, piercing light suddenly splintering their surroundings. The disorienting brilliance washed over him, and his eyes widened as a dry path emerged in front of them, stark against the churning sea. The waters frothed and hissed, angrily brushing the edges of their sudden refuge. "Go. Keep moving." The urgency in Moses' voice sliced through the disarray, and he pushed forward, his heart pounding. The earth beneath felt alive, vibrating as though it was holding its breath. Around him, faces shifted from terror to tentative hope. He glanced back once, feeling the weight of their sobs pressing against his chest. The gleaming armor of the Egyptian soldiers shimmered ominously in the distance, their cries echoing off the rock face that framed their hasty exit. Were they truly safe? Moses felt a chill. They had escaped the storm, but danger still loomed behind them. The child tugged on his arm. "What is happening?" she whimpered, her innocent voice resonating with the doubts swirling in the air. Moses knelt down, facing her, trying to wrap his own tangled thoughts into something solid to ease her fear. "We're going to be okay," he insisted, though his heart raced with uncertainty. "But we must keep moving." The ground trembled beneath them again, more violently this time. Moses steadied himself, but the vision of the waters behind him crashing against the shores remained etched in his mind. Endless waves, hungry and wild. And then, at the edge of sight, a figure emerged through the light. The man in the white robe had followed them. His presence was commanding, as if he contained a universe of power. He raised his arm, and the sea seemed to yield, swirling in submission. Moses felt an inexplicable pull towards him, as if the very air hummed with purpose. "Trust the path," the figure commanded, his voice deeper than thunder, yet soothing like a gentle breeze. "Trust?" Moses echoed, eyes wide. Each word felt like a shackle, holding them in place while the danger loomed ever closer behind them. A shout spilled from his lips, raw and desperate. "Who are you?" "Your guide," came the calm reply, "but it is you who must walk the path." Suddenly, the trembling ground stilled, and the water surged back into a menacing shape. Moses took a step, heart pounding in his chest. "Now," he yelled, positioning himself at the forefront of the group. "Follow me." As they began to navigate the narrow passage split by the sea, a series of loud splashes erupted behind them. The Egyptian soldiers had entered the water, weapons raised, determination etched in the lines of their faces. Panic fluttered in Moses's chest, a dark shadow of fear creeping in. They were so close to hope, yet so close to nightmare. "Don't look back. Focus on the light," he called, his instincts urging them onward. But just as they pushed past the first wave, a scream pierced the air. The child had tripped, falling into the slosh of water pooling at their feet. "Help! I'm stuck," she cried, struggling against the slippery ground. The world narrowed as panic clawed at Moses, the roar of water becoming a deafening wall of sound. "Moses!" The child's voice rang out like a sharp blade. "Help me." The realization hit him like a swift kick to the stomach. It was not just survival at stake. It was the innocence of their future. He paused, heart pounding, mind racing. On instinct, he reached back, diving into the chaos, pulling the child to solid ground. But each second felt painfully stretched. The surf surged around them, a monstrous wave eager to reclaim what it had lost. "Together, we will make it," he shouted, tightening his grip as they fought to stay anchored to hope amidst the turmoil. As he fortified his resolve and pushed against the tide, the question slipped through his mind. Was this moment a woven thread in the tapestry of destiny, or a desperate gasp before the end? Emerging through the fray would demand more than just courage. It would require faith, not simply in himself, but in something far greater. And deep within the back of his mind, another voice whispered, beckoning him toward destiny's edge. What lay ahead would test not only his courage, but the very fabric of their existence. Would the promise of survival hold true, or would they be swallowed whole by the depths of despair? The grip of Moses tightened around the child's small wrist as he fought against the rising tide. The water surged again, rushing to reclaim its territory, but he refused to waver. Straining against the weight of panic, he pulled the child close, her small frame trembling violently against his. "Stay with me, don't let go." With each step they took, the flickering light ahead pulsed brighter, like a heartbeat coaxing them towards safety. Yet as they pressed on, the ominous shouts of the Egyptian soldiers echoed behind them, a relentless reminder that danger was only a breath away. Shining swords glinted cruelly, breaking through the veil of mist and casting long shadows over the terrified crowd. Moses spared another glance back, just as a soldier lunged into the water. A thunderous splash pierced the air, sending ripples racing towards them. Fear gnawed at his insides. They weren't safe yet. He could sense the soldiers gaining ground, could see the fierce determination in their eyes as they fought through the water, through the very barrier that was meant to protect them. "Keep moving," he urged, desperation lining his voice. Every step they took felt like a challenge against the roaring sea. The path ahead began to twist, narrowed by rocky formations that jutted from the land, making their escape feel like a labyrinth. Would they find a way out, or would they become lost in the depths of despair? "Look," the child gasped, pointing ahead. Moses squinted through the blinding light. There, at the edge of the path, flickered figures cloaked in the same brilliance their own people, blue with dread, yet steadfast. Faces turned toward them, eyes brimming with both fear and hope. "Brothers, sisters, come this way," Moses shouted, rallying all he could muster. But as their group formed, another blinding wave erupted from behind, sending frigid water crashing like a vengeful hand. The roar was deafening, and with it came chaos. People stumbled, crashing against one another as the terror spread. Moses felt the child slip from his grasp, the world around him flickering in and out of focus. "Help me," she screamed, her voice nearly drowned by the tumult. Adrenaline shot through him as he lunged for her, but the water twisted and thickened, pulling her further into the chaos. He could only watch as panic paralyzed those around him, fear spilling into every breath as desperation enthralled their hearts. "Stay together," he shouted, but the words felt hollow. The vision of his people scattering, lost to the tide, filled him with ice-cold dread. This battle was not just with the soldiers, it was a fight against despair itself. Straining against the current, he locked eyes with the child, who remained helpless but resolute. Her tiny body fought against the tide, but was barely an echo against the surging waves. "I will not let you go," he yelled, plunging deeper into the grasping water, the sound of destiny wrapping around them like iron chains. Suddenly, the figure in white reappeared, standing strong and undeterred by the chaos. He extended his hand, the calm amid the storm. "Moses, believe." The voice was a tether, pulling him from the edge of panic. Moses felt the air shift, the waters murmuring around him, as if allowing space for the impossible. With every ounce of determination, he fought against the pull of the wave, reaching for the child. "Trust," the figure commanded, and in that moment Moses felt the ground beneath him pulse, dousing the fear with an electrifying surge of power. "In the name of your faith, believe," he roared back, strength soaring from deep within. Just as he gripped the child's hand, everything around them dissolved into blinding light. A crisp wave swept over them, fierce yet illuminating, as the world cracked open and renewed from its core. But before he could pull them both to safety, the sky erupted in a cacophony of thunder and light. A storm brewed above a promise of wrath or wonder. Was salvation near, or would they face something unimaginable? And just as quickly as it came, the light faded, swallowing them into shadows anew. When the brilliance receded, darkness enveloped them like a heavy shroud, leaving only the echoes of their tumultuous flight ringing in Moses' ears. The once mighty waves had calmed, but that eerie silence was now a menacing backdrop to the uncertainty that loomed ahead. Moses blinked, trying to adjust to the gloom that had replaced the radiant light, though the child's grip remained a lifeline in the void. Moses came the muffled voice of the child, trembling with fear. He turned to her, desperation tightening like a noose around his heart. "Hold on, my brave one. We will find a way," he murmured. But a cold doubt slithered through him. It felt as if the sea had swallowed them whole, a new kind of prison, unseen but ever-present. The darkness shifted, casting long shadows that danced against the rocky walls surrounding them. For a fleeting moment, he thought he could hear the whispers of those who had gone before, stories woven into the fabric of this land, tales of hope and despair. Suddenly, a flicker of light ignited in the distance. It beckoned to them, a fragile flame in an endless abyss. Moses tightened his grip on the child's hand, urgency propelling him forward. "Come on." With each cautious step, the light grew stronger, illuminating jagged stones that jutted from the earth. But that warmth felt deceptive, promising safety yet echoing with whispers of caution. Could it be a trick? Would they find danger waiting for them instead? At that moment, from behind, a freezing chill coiled around them. Shadows flickered like dark whispers, forming into shapes that seemed to stretch and claw toward the light. Moses dared not turn, afraid to face what might be trailing them. "Faster," he urged, pulling the child along, his breath quickening with each stride. The flickering guide in the distance shimmered with hope, yet the cavern felt alive, thrumming and pulsating with an ancient dread. Suddenly, the ground shuddered beneath his feet, a reverberation that felt like a beating heart, threatening to split the earth. Moses staggered, his knees nearly giving way. The child's gasp pierced the tension. "Moses, what is happening?" "I don't know," he shouted, fighting against the turmoil within. Ahead, the light flickered violently, as if sensing the disturbance. Out of the shadows, shapes began to solidify, twisted faces of Egyptian soldiers, eyes glinting with vengeance. The real terror gripped Moses' heart like a vice. They had followed him into this darkness, intent on reclaiming the child, or worse, that eye in the corner of his eye. He spotted the figure in white again, but there was a difference this time. He stood atop a jagged rock, arms raised high, as though conjuring forces beyond comprehension. Did he truly have the power to aid them? Moses felt a surge of hope mingle with dread. "Believe," the figure shouted, voice cutting through the chaos like a sword. "You must confront your fear, Moses. Only then will the path be revealed." Moses inhaled sharply, the words resonating within him. It was not just about running. It was about facing what threatened to engulf them. A surge of determination rose in his chest. He looked from the child to the soldiers, and back to the flickering light. "Trust in the path," he roared, channeling every ounce of courage he could muster. "We will not yield to fear." As the soldiers lunged, the very air around them crackled with energy. Time seemed to stretch, each heartbeat echoing like a war drum. What would happen next? Would the darkness claim them, or would they force their way to the light? In that moment, the fate of their very existence teetered on the edge, and the question lingered. Could belief alone turn the tide in their favor? Moses stood rooted in place, his mind racing as shadows swirled around him, closing in like a dark tide. The Egyptian soldiers advanced, their malevolent gazes fixed on the child, their faces twisted with the weight of their past. Fury and desperation buzzed in the air, a storm threatening to break. With each step back, Moses felt the crunch of gravel underfoot, the earth a reminder of the ground he needed to hold. He was not just standing for himself. He needed to protect her. "Stay close," he yelled over the cacophony of the soldiers' growls echoing in the cavern. The cold air felt heavy, a prison of despair tightening around them. The flickering light ahead seemed to pulse now, almost alive, drowning out the dark tendrils grasping at them. Every instinct urged him to flee, yet he remembered the figure. His words still echoed in Moses' thoughts, almost a mantra. "Confront your fear. Only then will the path be revealed." The first soldier lunged, sword drawn. Moses dove aside, adrenaline surging through him. He felt the rush of wind as the blade narrowly missed him, its cold steel slicing through the stale air. The child's terrified scream sliced through the encroaching chaos, grounding him in the moment. "Moses," she cried, hands trembling. "Focus," he shouted back, pushing back the panic clawing at his throat. They were not victims. They were the warriors of hope. He turned, a sharpened piece of rock protruding from the wall catching his eye. He lunged toward it, snatching it in his hand just as the second soldier advanced, eyes filled with an unsettling hunger. Moses raised the makeshift weapon, steeling himself against the tide of fear threatening to drown him. "Get back!" he roared, desperation painting his voice. And for a fleeting moment, the soldier paused, caught off guard by the fire igniting in Moses's heart. "Run!" he yelled to the child, throwing a glance over his shoulder as more soldiers poured into the dim light. They encircled them, a looming storm of hatred and vengeance. The light pulsed again, and this time it reached out like a beacon, warm and comforting. Without thinking, Moses nodded toward it. That way, with the child's small hand gripping his, he darted toward the radiance. The soldiers hesitated but soon regained their momentum, charging after them with wild snarls. It was a race against time, with salvation glittering ahead while death whispered hotly at their backs. More voices joined the chorus of menace now, rising to a fever pitch. "Moses, you cannot escape," they taunted, their laughter mingling with the crushing echo of the cavern. Moses' resolve hardened. Confront fear. He angled his path, deliberately weaving to draw the soldiers away from the flickering warmth. Every second felt like an eternity, each beat of his heart a reminder of what was at stake. The light flickered again. "Come on," he urged, determination coiling taut within him. Just a little farther then, a roar of anger erupted behind them, a hard grasp catching his shoulder. The soldier felt like iron, the cold touch sending chills down Moses' spine. He spun around, adrenaline shooting through him like a live wire, and slammed the jagged edge of the rock against the soldier's wrist. The man's scream pierced the air, and Moses took the moment to push forward, pulling the child along, weaving through the dark tunnel. As they neared the light, he noticed a change. The shadows seemed to recoil, as if the approaching illumination held a power undeniable. Fighting fatigue, he surged forward, breath coming in ragged gasps. Then, abruptly, the light before them exploded in a brilliant burst, engulfing the darkness in a wave of white. Moses stopped, shielding the child with his body, the brightness washing over them like cleansing rain. Now, came the figure's booming voice, cutting through the blinding light. Leap, heart pounding, Moses propelled them both into the blinding expanse. Would they enter a new realm or be swallowed by the consuming void? As they jumped, the ground trembled beneath them. Whispers of dread clawed at the edges of his mind. Would this light be their salvation or their end? What awaited them beyond the brilliance? Would faith pave the way to freedom, or would they face an even darker nightmare? As the light enveloped them, it felt like soaring through the very fabric of dreams. Moses held tight to the child, both of them suspended in the heart of brilliance. The warmth radiated as if the sun itself had descended, brushing away the chill of despair that clung to them like a second skin. They landed not on solid ground, but on soft, sun-kissed sand. Gasping, Moses blinked, taking in the view around him. The air was fragrant with the freshness of new beginnings. He and the child stood on the shores of an expansive sea, the once menacing waves now calm and inviting, whispering secrets and promises that echoed across the horizon. Behind them, the chaos of the cavern faded, replaced by a profound silence that felt like a tender embrace. Moses turned, heart racing, scanning the shoreline for signs of their people. Had they made it? Were they here too? His breath hitched, but then he spotted familiar faces emerging, eyes wide with wonder, disbelief washing over them like the gentle lapping of water against the shore. They were free. His heart swelled as they rushed toward him, the cacophony of reunion overwhelming. Voices filled the air, laughing, crying, clasping each other close. The child tugged at his sleeve, her face bright with joy. "We did it, Moses. We're alive." "Yes," he breathed, overwhelmed. "We're here, together." They had faced darkness but emerged in light. But suddenly, a flash of shadow crossed his mind. The Egyptian soldiers. The finality of their journey pressed on him. Were they completely free? Had the darkness truly been vanquished? Anxiety churned in his stomach, but before he could voice his concern, the calming figure in white appeared. With quiet assurance, the man spoke. "This is your moment, Moses. You have embraced your fears, You have chosen faith over despair. Now, you must lead your people into a new life. Moses stepped forward, a weight lifting from his shoulders. We are free, he started, raising his voice for all to hear. Our trials have ended. Yes, but our journey does not. We carry our stories forward now. This is the time of believing and building, of gathering strength from our past to forge a brighter future. The people nodded in unison, renewed energy buzzing in the air. At that moment, they understood. They weren't just survivors. They were a testament to resilience, a new beginning, and their shared history would be their strength as they walked along the shore, weaving through the spreading daylight. Moses felt the tug of connection in his heart. He looked down at the child, who mirrored the hope blossoming in his chest. They had faced unimaginable horrors and had emerged united in spirit, ready to conquer the days ahead. Moses turned back toward the horizon, his voice steady and resolute. From this moment, we will remember our past, but not be shackled by it. We are a people of promise, forged in faith and solidarity. Cheers erupted behind him, echoing across the waters, each voice a pledge. There was laughter now, and the sun stretched high in the sky, bathing them in warmth. As the waves rolled harmoniously before them, Moses' heart swelled. Together, they would write their story anew. No longer just a tale of escaping, but one of hope, rebirth, and determined hearts. Together, the people echoed, filling the air with their collective spirit. And in that declaration, Moses found a peace he had long yearned for. With one last glance at the sea, its depths no longer a source of dread, but a canvas of endless possibility, he stepped forward, hand in hand with the child, ready to greet whatever came next. The sunrise over the sea painted their path in warm hues, a symbol of a dawn unlike any they had known before, a promise of what was to come. This was the moment they had all waited for, their new beginning. Now, before you head out, I need you to pay close attention. You need to subscribe to this channel immediately so you don't miss out on our next exclusive stories that are coming your way. Smash that like button now to let the algorithm know you want more incredible tales just like this one. And flood the comments section with your reactions, your theories, and everything this adventure made you feel. I want to hear it all. Remember, only true fans know how crucial it is to share this experience. So don't wait even one more second. Send this video out to at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let's keep our community growing and thriving together. We can unravel even more mysteries.